Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Today, let's talk about the EU report. The EU is a foreign body. It observed the election, among other bodies, but it has now put out what it calls its final report. And in that report, it was based on the 25th of February and March 11 general elections. And the EU described the whole process as unfair. This is a position that has been categorically denied by the federal government, President Tinubu, INEC, not to mention very many citizens in the country. Okay, but still, everybody has a right to have their say. And so we'll look at that today. And we have two people here. In studio with me here is Mr. Joe Igbokwe, a special advisor to the Lagos governor. Well, former. We got to. What? Still, APC. Still.
A member.
Okay. APC Lagos chieftain. Yeah, I'll just go that way. Thank you very much, Joe, as always, for being in the house. And Mr. Ni Akishiju, journalist, writer, and political affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Ni.
It's a pleasure to. It's a privilege, not even a pleasure. It's a privilege to be with you.
We're delighted. We're delighted you could make time for us. Good morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me start with you. It's been so long. So let me just start with you. The EU is calling their report their final report, and back in the process, back in the day, they had put out a report and had alerted that a final report would be coming, and so now we have the final report, and it's only to cast aspersions on the election in Nigeria. Give me your general views on this.
Yes, I think the report is not exactly well situated. And that is why it's generating this kind of response or backlash, if you want to put it. You don't do a report on a sensitive issues like this without first situating or contextualizing the method or the methodology or the framework upon which the report is put together. Now, when you look at that report, what you see are multiple dimensioned perspective and opinions, biases, and thoughts, of different people. The thread that runs for me is the constant mentioning of the submissions or the outlooks of the civil society organizations. So I think one is an aggregation of the thoughts of Nigeria's civil society organizations, some civil society organizations. And then, of course, when you also do an inquiry against the background of CSOs in Nigeria, you also understand that many of them are actually under the direct funding of the European Union, as it were. And my general engagement with some of them, because I also I used to be very, very active in that segment of the civil society organization, is that some of them intentionally create diversions and have some phantom challenges that are not existing in the country, but they need to submit such reports to their funding bodies or agencies so that they can continue to be sustained along that line. So my interim report before you find out the submission is that the report was not properly contextualized, was not properly situated, no methodology to it. Is a general observation of thoughts and exposures of some people. It does not speak specifically even to the issue of election day. If you read the report, of the 97 or so pages, the election day, February 25th, only had one page, committed to it. And whereas you have a general submission on the election failing or failed election on the election day, there were no specific empirical references in terms of data, that was espoused in that report, as it were.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that overview. Let me come to Joe now. Just as Nee has said, in fact, the statement put out by the presidential spokesman, Dele Alake, had said that, look, as far as they are concerned, this was a desk-bound exercise. A bunch of guys sat around a desk, collated reports. Now, they didn't go all that far, but is the interpretation I got, that this whole thing is a desk-bound exercise and that they had actually alerted about this before. But Joe, what would be your general view of this final report, as they call it?
I just look, I'm just seeing it as, it's advisory, what to do. They didn't pay too much attention to the elections, proper. But preparations, okay, look at it here. Let me just remove the ambiguities in the law. Establish a publicly accountable selection process for INEC members. That is what you would do. Indeed. Before the elections. It has nothing to do with elections proper.
Like pre-election.
Number 3 is ensure real-time publications of the aspects to election results. Advisory too. Then provide greater protection for the media practitioners. 5, discrimination against women in political life. Impunities regarding electoral offenses. These are the issues.
Well, how can you, based on that, all of that, now declare the elections in Nigeria unfair? And INEC has, risen up and categorically rebutted
177,000 polling booths. There were just about 110 members. 110 number. To supervise elections in 177,000 polling booths. So where were they? So where did they go to?
So you begin to wonder about the
how did they,
or the conclusion of the findings.
Like that the last speaker said, it's just to show that they have done something and they go for more funds. You don't sit in a place, you come to a place like Lagos or Abuja and you feel that you have traversed the whole political landscape. I said, 177,000 polling booths. Were you there? So it has nothing to do with the elections, What they are saying here is that, just things that you do before the election. So I was somebody here this morning. They said, look, that these are just pre-election matters. That's what they put here. They think they are telling us what to do, include more women, protect the press, and some other things they said, 6 of them.
But
so it cannot in any way circumvent what is saying. We are talking about election. Where our principal lost Lagos. Lagos is built. Thousands of people.
Did that get a mention? I don't recall seeing that as a mention.
No, it was.
Did that get a mention?
No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. But you just don't sit down somewhere and begin to craft something just to satisfy your sponsors and all that. Be fair.
Yeah, but
understand where we are coming from.
In fairness, Joe, when we're talking about the European Union, who would be their sponsors? I mean, isn't it that they would be sponsoring other people? Nee was speaking about the civil society segment and sector, and not wanting to, possibly annoy their sponsors.
That's what I'm saying too.
Okay.
You have to write something. But what I'm saying, did you traverse the 177,000 polling booths
to get a real feel?
To get a result. Okay, give us time frame for publication of results. Yes, the system can go wrong. There were hackers in the system, and we know they've been having meetings. These elections they prepared, especially the main opposition PDP. They were in Dubai throughout, the center of hackers. So they were waiting. That one was not supposed to be on the ballot because power is on to the south. This is an election where, we had 21 governors. And 5 governors left them. Atiku is PDP. P2B is PDP. Then Kwankwaso came with NNPP.
No, but Peter Obi is not PDP.
He was PDP.
Where
He was PDP.
You could have said
He was PDP before he. They're all PDP members before he went to LP. So you can see three of them fighting, and Ababa took victory and ran away with victory. So, so many things played out.
Okay.
How can you dissect the fact that Asiwaju lost Lagos and the president lost Katsina? Our national chairman lost Nasarawa. Our campaign DG lost Plateau. How can you? And you think that what went wrong? Nobody is talking about it.
Indeed, nobody.
Nobody is talking about it.
Now, Nee, to come back to you, in the past 30 days, so much has happened in the presidency. President Tinubu, he's even gone abroad into meeting with. I wanted to ask what you think of the responsibility or otherwise of a foreign body like EU making this kind of an announcement. And of course, it's not just us, but it also goes all over the world, trying to stigmatize the election as unfair, even if that was not the intention. If they can, it is possible that they might say that was not the objective. Yeah, but what do you think of that whole matter about, just that, putting this report out before the entire world? How responsible was that?
It is quite unfortunate. Even before we get to the world, the matter of the election outcomes had been in the court now, the
Indeed.
Presidential election.
Indeed.
Then you also don't expect this kind of report to be issued and to be circulated at this point in time, because the principal matter, it's subject to adjudication by the appropriate constitutionally constituted body. That is one. Of course, it has caused a distraction. All the parties to the matter are now issuing statements. And this matter is supposed to be subjudiced, in fact and indeed. And you have a body that is supposed to be as a responsible organ as the EU election monitoring organ. And it's an organ of the European Union Commission. The European Union Commission itself is a global respected body that is supposed to be a protector of the rule of law. And this kind of intervention is actually disruptive of the processes of the rule of law. That is one. Then two, when a president had been sworn in, and of course, because of the processes, the nature of the processes of our election in Nigeria, the president continues, whoever is sworn in is seen to be the de facto occupier of that office. And until the court says or proves otherwise, that office should be respected. The EU, as a commission, as a body of sovereign, it's supposed to understand the context of that relationship, either at the level of diplomacy or even at the level of good relationship, between Nigeria and EU and its member countries. So when you issue this kind of sweeping generalization of a sensitive issue, such I believe that Nigeria should actually question the EU Commission, by way of getting to understand what exactly the motives may be at this point in time. Because if they had come out, like I said, with empirical data, evidence-driven positions, perhaps I wouldn't have been bothered. But I took time to read that report 3 times over the last 3 days. And my position is, where exactly are the data to support the generalization of a failed election process? Even the advisory, so-called, now talk of the election. In fact, in that report, it says that on March 1, when the election results were declared, there was no violence. The report also says that on the election day, February 25th, there was no violence. And the indication of violence were only recorded during campaign periods when 110 incidences or thereabouts were recorded. Now, understanding the sensitivity of Nigerians, it is the election day that concerns us. And whatever position you are going to take, you are supposed to make it as clear as possible as a responsible organ of government at the global level.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning.
Good morning to Joe and the other guests.
Okay.
Uncle Yori, I read the report yesterday, and the simple summary that came to my mind is that EU went beyond their bounds by questioning our laws guiding elections. To observe is not to make laws for us. We are capable of making laws as is consistent with what prevails in our country. They are not the ones who tell us this is what our electoral laws should be. If you have come to observe, you only need to check whether the laws in place fall in line with the practice you are seeing at the election. They are not the ones to tell us how the laws should have been. That is basic. You see, Uncle Yori, what I see in all these things is, I can just summarize it as jealousy and envy. The European Union, this election was conducted in February, and in July, you are bringing out a report to discredit it. Where were you in those 5 months? It's because they saw that the president we have is not the type they can constrict into their basket. For people to be looting our money into their country, they will be condemning us as thieves. Yet they are using our money to improve their own economy. If we want the money to be returned, they will not give us. They are saying that we are trying, the situation is about to change. And they cannot hold this one and put him in their pocket. That's simply what the European Union is using this report to do. And we are not going to allow it.
All right, then.
The Commonwealth Group, Uncle Yori, the Commonwealth Group, led by Thabo Mbeki, came and observed this same election. African Union Group came, observed this election. I remember Thabo Mbeki went to the president before he left, and he passed a vote of confidence in the system. That's Commonwealth.
Indeed.
African Union, the same thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. Appreciate your
I
call.
won't take it.
All right, then. Thank you very much. And as Nee said earlier, the sensitivity or otherwise of the EU, first of all, this report, this final report that has been roundly condemned by the federal government and INEC and Mr. President, they determined, as Nee had said, that this, when it is still, people who have grievances are still in court, the matter is going on, full tilt there, that is the time that you put this report. Is that an impartial report? But that is the time you decide that, this might be a good time to just drop this on the ground.
Well, to me, as a politician of many years standing in Lagos and Nigeria, it's just a report. It cannot change anything.
I wonder if they knew that.
It cannot change anything. Nigeria is a sovereign nation.
Indeed.
Let me shock you. From 1964 to we talked about electoral offenders, or probably for violence, 1964 to 1965, you have 200 deaths after elections. Then 1993, 100. 1999, 80. 2003, 100. 2007, 300. 2011, 800. 2015, 100. 2019, 150. And this 2023 to 2023 is just 28. Nobody need to die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody need to die, but you cannot be everywhere at the same time.
Exactly. And
police officers cannot be in every space in Nigeria at the same time. We don't want anybody to die. You don't need to die. Where I've been voting in Lagos for close to 20-something years now, it's always fun. Fun. We go there, we eat, we drink and we vote, we hug ourselves and we go. Nobody needs to die. But
But as you know, the narrative of the opposition is entirely different.
And losers will always complain.
Yes.
We see it.
Yes.
Even when you know that you did not win this election, you will still be talking. Some people are still waiting for a result to come. People that have not built one single structure in any state just came and ran on the back of religious sentiments, and you got us well. They got some votes. That's where it will end.
Let me take this.
Go for that. You have to go and build your structures.
Okay.
You know.
Let me take this call. Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, sir, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest, Oscar. Yeah. You see, election. What I would suggest, or what I would say to my own point of view, as a Nigerian, as a two Nigerians, let us wait for the judiciary to come out with their own, because every day there are some reports you carry down and that people will hear. It makes people keep them on high pedestrians, which is not healthy for our country. Coupled with all this issue of subsidy or no subsidy, palliative or no palliative, my own is that Nigerians, let's wait for the judiciary to come out with their final verdict. Good morning, Mazi Okorafor from Aonuchukwu. Good morning, sir. Our guest.
Indeed, thank you very much, Mazi. Yeah, because that seems to be a logical position considering the EU, the European Union, which represents countries in Europe, and they pride themselves on, democracy and the law and developed judicial systems. That would have been perhaps what somebody would have thought is the logical, way. Say, wait, let's see what the system says. There are people protesting it. President Tinubu had said some time ago that, he supports the right of anybody to go to court and exercise the right of dissent, and it will be adjudicated upon. So, but that they didn't wait to see what our judicial system would make of all of this. Instead, they come out with their own decision judgment that is binding on nobody, but nevertheless still has its influence. That's the part that's surprising me.
It's quite surprising. And I think it's not exactly, I don't want to use the word irresponsible, on the European Commission or the European Union as an entity. Because I know that body has a long, distinguished history in terms of processes, in terms of understanding the rule of law, and of course, in terms of diplomatic engagement. So when you are relating with a sovereign body, and Nigeria is a sovereign body, that issue is about a sovereign body. It's about a country that is appropriately constituted with constituted authority in government. And therefore, issuing that kind of statement is not exactly responsible, one. Then two, if you are going to issue a statement, then they issued an interim statement before the judicial process started. I think if they were responsible enough, what they should have done was to put together either final or interim and issue that, which would, of course, impact the processes going forward. Now, as part of the disruptive, indication of what they just issued now, that report was submitted as an exhibit at the PET, yesterday. It's disruptive because it is an afterthought. It's something that was issued much more, days after the judicial process has started. And it's only logical to say that on whose side, is the EU. Is the EU on the side of Nigeria? Is the EU on the side of opposition parties? Indeed. Is the EU on the side of the CSO? And of course, all of those of us that have been active at the level of the CSOs understand the fact that the CSOs in Nigeria are not exactly objective-minded entities as a collective. There are people who are there just for mercantile reasons, just for profit venture reasons. And as far as they are concerned, whatever brings peace in Nigeria reduces their income, And to that extent, we may also ask the European Union, what changed? What are the values that are in that report that changed between the time they issued the interim report and now that they have the final report?
Indeed.
What new information, were so important that have been added, to the interim report that was different from the major thread in the interim report that they now issued it at this time when the judicial process had been on.
Indeed. Okay. James in Ketu has called in, Ketu, Lagos. Good morning to you, sir. Did we lose James yet? Mr. James in Ketu, Lagos. Well, Ni has, sort of, spoken on that quite well because it would have been sub judice ordinarily when you look at it. And considering their credentials, the whole European society, and the union, that is speaking for them, and that this has happened, it just begins to make you wonder. However, they've done it, and we've heard it, and I don't know if that is what they want, because they would have expected that it would be categorically denied and rejected, as has been done summarily. And not only that, Dele Alaki, presidential advisor's earlier statement had sort of given some sort of an indication as to, one is not too surprised about this. It didn't quite use those words, but the way you write carefully, when there was the impression that we knew the way, because if it, how do they say it? They say if it walks like a duck, it does something else like a duck, you can then begin to conclude that, it looks like a duck. It is a duck. So I don't know what we ever did to anybody for them to throw this kind of caution, because after all, the Europeans, they are icons when it comes to matters of decorum and all of that. But they've decided to go this way. We have received it, and we are looking at it. There you go. That's the presidential, this presidential person, Dele Alaki, and his statement. Yes. He said we just need to be more objective than all of this. Okay, tell you what, we'll go on a break. Ni Akishiju, we'll just take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with this conversation. Okay, welcome back, and thank you for joining us. If you've just done so, thank you for staying. If we've been together from the beginning, and with us remotely is Mr. Ni Akishiju, veteran journalist, writer, and political affairs analyst, and in studio, Mr. Joe Ibokwe, APC Lagos chieftain. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Kinami in Port Harcourt, for holding on. Go ahead now, please.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. We, as regards to the recommendations and the report of the EU is an international organization well respected and well known all over the world. It is the European body that colonized Nigeria. So we can throw away their recommendations because they are our master and they are still part of us. Particularly in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, we know what happened. We know how the election looked like. So we both walk around the polling booth around within our environment where election was conducted, and all the names and voters were counted, listed. There was no uploaded to the INEC portal. Till late in the night, by my house, more than 10 mobile police vehicles would come, carry the girl away, the INEC staff away. By in the morning, they brought another paper and paste on the wall. We know what happened in Rivers State. I'm talking about Rivers State. I'm not talking about another state where I was not there. I'm talking about Rivers State where I was. the winner of the Rivers State election presidential is not the first party that the Rivers people voted for. So the EU as one that have recommended, let us not just throw it away. We should look into it and investigate it and see where we can correct our wrongs. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinami, for that call coming out of Port Harcourt. Joe, would you like to react to some of the, you said his position that, look, without prejudice to the fact that there were 170,000
7,000.
Units.
Almost 177,000.
So one wonders how many of those were actually monitored to get a real sort of a statistical report. But, he said he can speak about where he was.
A man online spoke something about it, about our own internal observers. I mean, Nigerian observers. Where is that report? They were part of the processes, that got us.
So you're questioning why didn't they come out?
Why didn't they should? Even before the European Union.
EU will get round to it.
Let's have our own. That's why we're here. We have all these bodies all over Nigeria, human rights organizations, so many interest groups that are supposed to monitor things and then present our own case to the public.
But that wasn't done.
It has not come out. I've not seen anything.
It hasn't come out.
We have not seen anything. Outsiders came. Outsiders, just 110, and wrote reports. We have people in every nook and cranny in 36 states, including Abuja, human rights bodies, that have branches all over the place. Where are their own results? Where are they? They should speak.
Okay. What do you say to
because
that?
Because if they had spoken, it would have influenced what they
Indeed. What do you say to that, Nii? The fact that we also have so many different monitoring people, but they haven't come up with a report. Surely, is it because they know the terrain better and they know that, look, you can't just be writing report on every little hitch, or I don't know. What would you say to Joe's, sort of question? Say, but we also have, there's so many bodies, and you've spoken about a foreign head of state who actually had pronounced that, look, upon my own observation, this has been a credible process. We've heard that it's been the fairest election since 1999, I believe. We've been hearing those kind of things. But if you were to speak to the question, we have observers too now. We have all these, although you've made some comments on the CSO community, what would you say to that? Where are our own observers and their reports?
Actually, a number of them issue reports immediately after the election, 2 weeks after the election.
Okay.
I recall a Situation Room addressed a press conference. Yaga Africa also addressed
That's
a
right.
press conference.
Yaga.
Yes, I recall that.
Yaga.
Yeah, I think an association of election monitoring, national monitoring bodies also issued a report. But their graphs really had to do with the uploads. Nobody had issues with critical engagement on the ground. Because the truth for me is that it's near difficult for an observer's group to come to a conclusion on the nature of an election across the whole polling units. And that's why I said the EU report was deficient in terms of situating the methodology adopted. Because if you adopt a certain methodology and you have 110 observers, 40 of those observers are what you call long-term observers, and 54 are short-term, which means they were employed, for particular day of the election. It is not possible, and you have not told us. That's the methodology. You have not told us if it was by random sampling that you determined to be or to post particular observers to a particular polling units. And therefore, we know that what you have adopted is a random sampling size approach. And therefore, you cannot be in all the 176,000, 177,000 polling units across the country. So whatever you are saying are actually evidence you have gathered from these randomly selected polling units. Now, that suggests to me that whatever is the content of this report, it's mere speculations and conjecture because it's not scientifically. I am a student of empiricism. So if I'm looking at the report, I must look at it from the point of view of a social scientist, and to that extent, you must be able to tell me that what you have done is socially, scientifically established. Okay. So, as the Port Harcourt man said, in his polling unit, that is how to establish a fact. Exactly. This is your participant engagement in this particular polling unit. Nobody will question it, But the question will now be, was the experience you had at that polling unit, was it replicated in how many other polling units? That indeed is the question. 1 second, please, and I beg your pardon for interrupting you. Chidi in Arepo, Ogun State. Good morning to you, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Mr. Yori, and the guests in the house.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Yes, the truth remains that in every election, when there are losers, the losers will always complain. President Tinubu won the election squarely, based on my own understanding. The man from Port Harcourt will only say what he knows in his own polling unit. We are talking about 170-something thousand polling units in Nigeria. And somebody is giving us a report from maybe 100 persons. That cannot be justified in all the 170-something thousand units. That is my take. Good morning, and thank you for the good work.
Thank you very much, Chidi, for calling in on that. In fact, I think that's also a point that INEC itself has made, that, look, it just can't understand, how the EU has arrived at its conclusion. And as, Ni explained, when you want to do these, your statistical sort of summaries and use that to come up with a scientific conclusion, then we'll know. But none of those indices were provided, but we have to take it for what it is. And INEC is not amused. Even our own MBA, it has spoken on the matter. So, but this is we don't want to be repeating ourselves, but it is a bit surprising that this very election that people have said, and not everybody is going to agree with that, but people have said that this is the fairest election we've had since 1999. Let them look at it, and now you are coming to try and denigrate it. And the one that is probably worrying to a lot of people is that we are in the middle of the legitimate right of the losers, people who didn't win. That's what I mean by the losers, people who didn't win. They're exercising their right. We're in the middle of it. You now just decide that this is a fine time to, well, as our caption says, I think that slam in there, one can understand it. Mr. Oluwagbemiga in Ojodu, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Ayoju. How are you?
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to every guest that you have invited this morning.
Sure.
I want to quickly add a few things. Number one, here in Lagos, we witnessed a whole lot of things, but yet nobody talked about it. The Mao 2 area, the Anoiba area, the Alaba, and the likes. There were many issues. There were many intimidations from the Igbos, even to the indigenes in Lagos. Nobody spoke anything about it. Nobody said anything till today. There were videos, there were pictures of molestations from people that we can actually say as sojourners in Lagos.
Well,
about that.
you know, I don't mind. You can say what you want to say, but I wanted us to sort of keep on the straight and narrow of the topic. You know,
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's
why I said I will keep that one away. Let me speak concerning the issue right now. The issue is just consisting of a few number of people. Now, somebody said we are talking about 100,000 plus polling units. I'm very certain that the issue
177,000.
Thank you. They cannot cover a Lagos state, not to talk of a country called Nigeria. That is one. Number two. Thank you. Number two, the people we have on ground, the local observers, we have them in thousands. We have a lot of Peace Corps that came out en masse during the elections, and they have their reports. But this is the norms in this our country. Whatever these local reporters are given out as reports, nobody tends to listen to it because we have an all-edifying group of people called the European Union. You just heard Mr. Joe said, what about the AU report? What about the Commonwealth report? But because this is the way we have carried the norms several years, and something must stop this whole nonsense now. I can tell you for a fact, sir, that the president we have now have been seen by all and sundry around the world, and they know that it's not a president they can press on. They know it's not a president that can be pushed over. They know it's not a president that can be bought. And that is why EU is saying what it's saying now.
Okay.
If you ask the American observers, they will say the same thing. If you ask anyone outside there that knows that Nigeria is about to come out of the dungeon of slavery of yesteryears, they will say the same thing. But I tell you that we are watching. We are watching the judicial process. We are watching what everybody is saying. There are allies like us in this country. We will not speak until when it's time for us to speak. And when we speak, we don't speak just because we want to speak. We speak with every action embedded in us.
All right, then. I want to thank you very much. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but thank you very, very much for your point of view. As to motive, Ni referred to that by way of wondering what the motive might be. Actually, that motive, I mean, you know, Mr. Oluwagbemiga, he has provided a motive, but we have to be careful. Whereas it can be quite disappointing to be hearing from such an august body as that in this way.
Yes. There are certain things these international observers may not know. We are talking about election where about 20 governors lost across, whether APC, PDP, you know, Labour, they lost elections in their states. We are talking about a situation where about 7 governors couldn't get a seat to the Senate.
That's right. And we hadn't heard about those kind of things in a long while because those tickets were automatic.
I said these people did not go to 2% of this, I mean, the 2% locations in Nigeria, or 2% of these polling units. Let me say 2%, to know what is actually going on. It was a kind of silent revolution. For anybody, we are still wondering how Achiwaju lost Lagos. Look at the pattern.
Indeed. Yeah.
Look at the pattern. President losing Katsina. The election is so fair.
President Buhari at the time.
He could never have have happened.
But then
It happened.
That's the quiet revolution you were talking about.
Yes.
Let me
And
bring on.
nobody's talking about it. These are the things I expect our own reporters to bring to the fore.
Let me bring on Elder David. Good morning, sir. Elder David.
Good morning, Yorin. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Joe Bokwe.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Are you hearing me well, sir?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you. What is the EU talking about? which African representative that witnessed the election in France, which is worse than that of Nigeria? What of the Germany own? Nigeria election is the best I've ever seen in this country. Anybody tell you anything, just telling you lies. Tinubu won his election. I've been contributing to this program since 2021 that Tinubu will get the ticket and win this election. Forget about that. What of America? Trump is still contesting today that he won the election there.
That's true.
Nigerians should be very appreciative of what happened. The democracy in Nigeria today is still the best since independence. May God bless those who voted APC in 2015. I'll be telling you this program here. Anybody talking, that person is not a Nigerian. May God forgive that person. And those churches that predict where are they today? Some people were accusing me at the time, but they hide their head in shame today. The APC government is there to stay. It will be there 2031 and hand over to another person. God will bless you, Joe Ibokwe. You are a true Igbo man.
Thank you very much for calling in.
We are all Nigerians. May God bless every one of us.
Amen.
Yes, divided we stand.
Okay, no, we can't stand if we're divided.
No, you made a mistake. He wanted to say together we'll stand together.
Okay, yes, of course. Well, actually, momentarily we've lost the connection with Ni Akishuju. Nevertheless, so we still highly value his contribution to us. But now it has been done, Joe. They've done it. So as our people say, we'll just be looking. I mean, they can say it because
it's just for documents.
And then democracy. Let them have their say.
Democracy, have their say.
Let them have their say.
But we know what transpired. One of the reports here is that the beaver, when you do an election, tell us when you are going to announce the result.
Yes, that's a major concern.
Beavers performed almost 90%. I got to the polling booth, I forgot my voter's card. The man said, "What's your name?" I just told him my name. You opened the papers and saw my name. He said, "There's no need for you to go."
So he was able to access,
As the technology works.
Yes.
And he worked with frightening speed.
But this is the...
By 12 o'clock, we finished.
And
so a lot of improvement in the system. A lot of improvement. Otherwise, nobody, we are still mourning how Ajiwaju lost Lagos. It's not possible. Something happened, but I will not say it.
Indeed.
I will not say it here.
Well,
something went wrong. I will not say it here. I know what. I've been here for a while, so I know what happened, but I will not say it.
Indeed, because
let me not cause trouble.
Even candidate Tinubu at the time had said that. Well, that's the nature of elections. That's the way he just said. Look, that's the nature of democracy.
We're in the field
and the nature of elections. But
I won't say it here.
You said so.
Let's keep it to ourselves. Certain things are better not said. Let's just leave it.
Well, we're going to have to leave it here for now. I just want to thank you, Joe, and also to thank Nia Kinshiju and indeed the callers on this for contributing to this particular conversation. What the EU was all about, what its motive was. Some callers have suggested their own motive. We won't go as far. We'll just stay with.
We're waiting for that report on the American election, though.
On the American
they will not
election.
go there.
This is the whole point.
They should go there. So they should have been there to find out, to resolve the matter.
They're friends.
They can't go there.
No, they're friends. So they won't go there. And then some people have said, maybe in a jocular context or not, that since they've been doing their own elections, have they seen us going there and going to write reports that we came to observe? And so we want to bring the African Union perspective on whether we like the election or not. So there's a sense of
who have grown that.
Yeah, it was a bit patronizing. Many people would have seen it as patronizing.
Yes.
No way to say it.
They have to write the report to get their grants.
It is their right. Ashwaju said that's the nature of democracy. It's their right to say what they will say, but you say what cannot be tenable, it will be contested.
Yes.
And I guess this is what has been done. It's been
He has won. He has won.
The EU's report has been, final report has been categorically rejected by not just INEC, not just the federal government, but even by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For what it was worth, that was the subject of our conversation today. Thank you very much for joining us. Now join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.